Hey guys, so I'm gonna admit that this one isn't as complete as it should be, but that's no fault of my own, don't click off. What I mean is that the topic of this video, Gemstone Godzilla, is lacking in a lot of concrete information around him. This may be because of the fact that Gemstone Goji isn't technically made by Toho, but it is under their umbrella of content, so they can make things like merch about him. But how strong is he with what we have at the moment? First things first, is this adult Godzilla Jr.? No. Let's get that out of the way right now. Reason for this is pretty simple. There's way too many contradictions to it. Yes, Migi Segusa's actor Megumi Odaka voiced in Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, but she herself stated that the Heisei series was over and done with. So her inclusion doesn't mean anything as for it being Heisei canon. Well, what about the references of 25 years ago? That is vague, and yeah, there's a lot of Heisei references, like the atomic breath sound, nuclear pulse, burning form having meltdown music, etc. There's nothing explicit that it is adult Godzilla Jr. He doesn't have the red spiral ray. He doesn't seem to have his regeneration, if Megalon is to be taken into account. There's no maser tanks, surprisingly, which is weird because those were kind of effective on monsters. There's no mechas at all for some reason, which, considering if this is the Heisei timeline, where are the mechs? Mechagodzilla was rebuilt, Mogera was still somewhat intact. There's the Super X3, which just isn't in the Gemstone projects at all. Considering that Gigans and other monsters have attacked and Godzilla survived, it would be weird to just get rid of the strongest weapons against the monsters. That wouldn't make any sense. We also have the statement in Versus Megalon that Godzilla using punches with energy is something never seen in this timeline before, which is blatantly false because we know Space Godzilla, he did the exact same thing. And that was recorded by G-Force individuals, and that information would have been used against Godzilla later on, or other kaiju. There is also no actual statement that this is Godzilla Jr. The only statement we have really about who he is implies he's the first Heisei Godzilla. It says that he is the monster king who has seen many battles, and the memory of them is etched into his cells. That is verbiage that is more similar to Heisei Godzilla proper, rather than Junior. And Junior only really had one battle, that being with Destroya. So, if he's not Heisei, who is he? Well, he may just be a lookalike. We know that the Godzilla multiverse is vast, and there's endless possibilities to what Godzilla could be and could not be. Toho said this themselves, so it could be a branched off version, or just some lookalike, for all we know. But how strong is he then with his own feats? I mean, if we can't scale to anything, then how strong is he on his own? Well, consistently, the explosions he generates in his base form are about multi-city block to small town level on their own, with his amped form having large town to city level feats just off of like the bare bones feats. But if we use things like Godzilla's normal temperature for atomic breath, then this inflates his feats all the way up to mountain level, at least, if not island level. A substantial increase. If you think he has more of a Heisei temperature, given like all the Heisei like appearance and sounds, etc., then his attack potency shoots all the way up to country level, much higher. We then have him at an already decent level of power. But what about that strongest statement? Could we apply that to anything? Well, we know that his creators worked on Shin Godzilla, so he would at least be stronger than Shin Godzilla, which, I mean, that's not saying much. His feats already were above that anyway, so that doesn't really change anything. But if one was to assume that this means any Godzilla of the new era, or at least what was visually seen by these people, then you could possibly imply it would account for things that were visually seen, like, say, Earth destroying black holes, or legendary blasting to the core of the earth. If you take that interpretation, he's actually pretty powerful. But at the very least, he is city level off of pure feats. If you apply temperatures at a low end, he gets all the way up to large mountain level, to island level. In his beam clash with Gigan Rex when it exploded, this would be multi-continental even with the low end temperature. He actually survived this when it killed Gigan Rex, who was, part of that beam clash. So we could get a multi-continental Godzilla out of this. If you assume a Heisei temperature, this gets him in his base form to small country, his amp form to multi-continental plus, and if you assume any of the higher temperatures given to Heisei, then well, those numbers only increase further. What about speed? Well, based on fast the beam moves on screen, it's about Mach 7, but of course, most Godzilla beams are just stated to be beams of light and radiation, so we could just kind of apply that to Gemstone too. His durability scales to his attack potency. Even at 30% of his power, he was able to take hits and combat Megalon, who was powered up by Gigan Rex, and was able to take a 30% atomic breath shot with no damage and overpower it. His transformation seems to boost all of his stats, considering just merely turning into it destroyed multiple amped Gigan Miles who were pressuring him in his base form, if not overpowering him. This makes the mere transformation a one-shot gap, or at least 10 times above his base. And obviously his amped White Breath, even at 30%, cleaved Megalon in half and matched Gigan Rex's 6-core amped Red Beam and killed him, with Godzilla still having energy to spare. So, overall, kind of weak for, who people think he is, but not that bad when you take a closer look. He's also a proficient melee combatant and quite intelligent. Not the smartest, not the strongest, but we can only see more next G-Day. I hope Gemstone keeps pumping out banger content though. Anyway, that's all for this one. So yeah.